Hello everyone, this is the Databyte channel here, and I apologize for not getting a video out about the first and second trailers to break those down and have my own discussions on them, but I thought I would instead do something a little bit more different. You see, I was kind of thinking about it a little bit more and more on what to probably talk about, and I feel like I wanted to do more so a fun little theory out of everything. So hopefully this will be like an apology to me not getting those videos out. So I wanted to do a video talking about what I think about the Forbidden Lands. We know that there is going to be weather. We know about what some of the monsters are going to be and some of the stuff about the Forbidden Lands in terms of environmental traps and everything. But I decided that I wanted to do a video talking about why is it forbidden, and talking about some implications of this in terms of the story and my guesses as to where it could all go, as well as talking about the quote-unquote flagship, the Railgun Wyvern, as the fans have called it, and talking about the many theories surrounding it. So hopefully you'll enjoy this video, and without further ado, let's begin. So we know that the Forbidden Lands are banned by the Guild, as the Guild has deemed this location to be unfit and too dangerous for any hunters to traverse within. This is not the first time that in Monster Hunter lore that the Guild has ever banned a location from hunters to go into. But it's interesting that when it comes down to the new world, what can this actually mean? Because when we think of World, which I believe Wilds is a direct sequel to, it seems as if in World, when the team that goes to Astera is essentially going to this area, it kind of feels like they were told to explore what they could explore, like only there, and then when they made the camp in Selena, I think that's what it was called, Selena, in the expansion being Iceborne, it felt like they weren't fully allowed to explore all of the New World. And if the Forbidden Lands are a part of the New World, that makes a lot of sense as to why we are now just kind of hearing about it. Not just because Capcom, was like, oh, well, we didn't really make this, we just made it on the spot for this game. But I feel it's more so for like the lore of Monster Hunter. It seems like it's actually going to be something where, hey, we might actually kind of have more so of a worry about what the Forbidden Lands actually contains. Because have you looked at some of the things that are in the Forbidden Lands? These things don't look natural. They do not look natural. They look pretty freaking alien, if you can ask me. But I think that's kind of what's happening here. The Forbidden Lands feels very alien because of the locale that it's supposed to be. It's very unknown, it's very hard, it's very hostile, very dangerous, and a lot of the creatures are aggressive and are not going to be very easy. I mean, they probably will be easy, but you get my point. They're creatures that have adapted to this locale and to this world. And I feel that with the Windward Plains and whatever new locales there could be, like an ice locale, the lava locale, and whatever have you, I feel that what can happen in terms of just overall aesthetic wise with the monsters being alien is to help understand why this place is so forbidden. It's because the entirety of the landscape is so harsh and so aggressive in that kind of animals that are just predatory. They are very much so hunting animals, like Balahara making these sand pits to trap animals in, Doshagama being this creature that hunts in all these packs. And to me, it seems that the Forbidden Lands is banned because of the wildlife within, but also the storms, as we know that the weather is going to be a massive mechanic for Monster Hunter in this regard. So it makes sense that if you have dangerous animals in a locale or area of the new world that have not really been that explored, and I'd argue are more dangerous than the kinds of creatures that World had, then I'd argue that they believed that the animals within world, so Anjanath, Tobikadachi, Odogaron, Legiana, Nergigante even, they felt that the hunting guild at that point was able to take these creatures on and there wasn't that much of a threat surrounding them. But when you look at a lot of these creatures, it feels like that the landscape has made them a lot harsher. You have Chatacabra, this amphibian that has this sticky saliva that wraps around its arms and can pretty much gather minerals to make its physical attacks a lot more stronger. Almost like if you took Garangolm from Sunbreak and you just made it an amphibian instead of a fanged beast. Then you have Doshagama, a fanged beast that hunts in packs, and very much so, we can even tell from how the trailers were shown that it's the one that seems to change its behavior the most from when the landscape is vibrant and lush to desolate and destructive when the storms hit. So pretty much Doshagama is going to be a big threat, especially because in the second trailer, we see it break into a village. Whether this is going to be the village that the hunter and his companions stay in, or this is one that they travel to, that remains to kind of be discussed. But it's very clear that these animals are not very, like, they're not going to be very easy in terms of how they are biologically. They are a lot more dangerous and a lot more advanced. And Balahara is a creature that, like I said, it's going to be this kind of Leviathan with scallop-like eyes. Those little blue dots, by the way, are actually eyes. And it seems like it just literally can contort its body almost to like a drill. So it can travel through the sand and create these massive sand pits like an antlion would do in real life, not like spin around to cause them, but just literally hide within, shooting sand or things at them to fall to the center of the pit so that the antlion can eat them. That's kind of what I'm imagining with something like the Balahara, where it just can literally shoot this stuff at an animal, they fall into the pit, and then it has its prey. And we can see that it tries this with the Doshagama, but one of them actually escapes the sand pit and the hunter attacks it. So for me personally, I feel that it's a combination of the wildlife being way more alien, harder to understand than the wildlife that was in just base world and even Iceborne, where they're dangerous, they have tricks up their sleeves, but they don't feel like they are very hard to combat with. Whereas the creatures in Wilds, even if they are very easy, like, oh, it's just a big old kind of lion bear creature, you can take this thing on. It hunts in packs, though. And I'm certain that the game is going to want you to try to separate the pack from the main monster. So that's something to kind of take in consideration, because if you actually don't then take on those monsters, the pack, and you just have the whole thing go after you instead of just one by one, that's going to make it a lot more trickier, especially because the Balahara even are shown to attack in packs too. So in my mind, it seems like with the monsters, they're just way more dangerous. And then when you factor in the storms causing the monsters to become even more aggro, it just was too much of a danger for the guild to just allow. They were like, no, we have to say no. We can't explore this area. Call it off. This area is going to be banned. And then Nada enters the picture. And Nada is I would kind of argue he's like the side character. He's a sidekick, tag along to the hunter. I don't think he's going to be like accompanying us on every hunt, mind you, but he's going to be important story-wise, as we see in the first trailer when Gemma says, like, I hope we can find them, or I think it was along the lines of, I hope they're all okay. It seems like Nada got separated from either his village or from his family or even friends. And when he's brought to what I'm going to assume is the guild master or the guild commander, who looks a lot like the Lance character from, I think, 4 Ultimate, by the way. A lot of 4 Ultimate imagery in this, too. But the Guildmaster and the Hunter are talking, and I don't know if this is Alma. Maybe this is Alma bringing Nada to the characters, who's basically our handler, Alma's the handler. I wonder if, like, if Nada was brought because of the story that he had to tell, like why he got separated and that he needs to go back home. And the Guildmaster is very hesitant because, I don't know, like, we made it a law that we can't go into this locale because it's very dangerous, but that is your home and we can't strip you of your home. So, okay, Hunter, you're going to have to go accompany this kid, take him back to the village, and then get out. Because it is a very hostile land. You can't go there. Or the Guildmaster could be like someone who, I want to actually start going to the Forbidden Lands. I think it's about time that we do go. There's still a lot of mystery surrounding it, but I do think that you are qualified. Literally says, I believe you're qualified for this expedition. So I feel like this was, okay, now it's no longer banned and you get to go. Or he's basically telling the Hunter that you're going to go, but you're going to be very cautious on what you do with these creatures because they are not like the animals that you've fought before. They are far more deadlier and dangerous. So that could be a whole thing. And I wonder too, because if you think about it, Nada had to have been separated somehow. And I feel it's not just the storm. I don't think it's just the storm that got him separated from his family, so that either he approaches the guild asking to go back home, or whoever this character is, like I said, possibly it's Alma the handler or somebody else, brings him to the guild to bring up the story because he's like shy, he's scared, he doesn't know what to do. That could be a possibility. The story's brought up, the Guildmaster says go and bring him in. Like, go, take him back to his home and come back, or go and explore the area while you take him back. So, to me, I feel that it's probably going to tie back to the quote-unquote flagship, the flying wyvern that we saw at the end, or near the end of the second trailer. For those that do not know what I'm talking about, in the Summer Game Fest trailer, near the end, during like the big kind of like I wouldn't say like a spiral structure, but the very big structure that's in the center of the Windward Plains, I'd assume, there is a monster that is almost what I would say is getting supercharged by the lightning or trying to absorb it. And it's the one that everyone has kind of called the Railgun Wyvern, based on how the horns on its head kind of come together, almost like inward on themselves, or all point forward to look like a railgun. And everyone's kind of expecting how it does the electricity as it raises its tail like a lightning rod, charges the electricity, and the sacks absorb it, and it runs from the tail to the back spikes, to those like sacks that come out of the neck, and then to the horns to deliver that electric blast that it did to the Doshagama during the second trailer. But I would kind of imagine that if Nada is separated, or let's say like he's attacked and he like kind of gets blacked out, like he's knocked out, he perhaps sees this creature during the storm and believes that this is what caused everything. Because if we look at Portable Third, the Zenogre were driven out of their home and kind of caused chaos as they were leaving one location to another. But the thing about it is that the place that the Zenogre stayed was actually the territory of an elder dragon known as a Matsu. So pretty clearly, in my view, it seems like what probably might happen is Nada gets separated, and the flying wyvern, the electric flagship everyone believes it's going to be, I believe the storms happen, lightning is seen, and it attacks. But it also could be the storms happen, Nada gets blacked out, and he sees this creature, but it didn't do anything. Where it's like almost left up to the audience's imagination that this thing actually is kind of guilty of doing something. Like, almost like even like Legiacris, where Legiacris was believed to have sunken the islands in Monster Hunter Tri, and the village wanted the hunter to kill it. But once it was killed, it turned out that Legiacris was not the monster responsible for causing the islands to sink, but in fact, it was an elder dragon named Sadius. So what could happen is he sees this happen, he's attacked by something he can't see, and he believes that it is the, I believe the fandom did find out what it's called. I think it's supposed to be called Ray Dawa, but I just kind of like calling it the Railgun Wyvern for now, just because I do not know if that's true or not. Because I've seen some fan art call it that. But with the Railgun Wyvern, he could get knocked out by the true culprit, the Elder Dragon of this game, the big boss, the like Sadius of Monster Hunter Tri, the Geismagorm of Sunbreak, basically being these big end game bosses that are almost the end of the story. Like, they are what kind of wraps up the main plot of the game. So he probably gets attacked by this creature. He doesn't notice it, but he does notice the Railgun Wyvern, and he thus believes it was the Railgun Wyvern that actually caused him to be separated or even possibly kill those people that were close to him. His family or friends might have not survived the attack of Raidua, and he believes that it's probably the Railgun Wyvern's fault for him being separated, and he's scared of it. That could be very interesting if that's what it's going to go down, where he believes that it was this creature that did all this when it was something else. Because that's usually the formula of Monster Hunter. There's a flagship that's believed to have actually been the culprit behind everything, but there's actually another monster that's kind of responsible for all the stuff that's going on. So that is where I'm very much so interested with the storyline going on, is Nada is taken to the Guildmaster and the Hunter. The Guildmaster allows us to go to the Forbidden Lands, and the Hunter agrees. The Hunter, Gemma, who is the smithy of the game, Alma the Handler, and Nada and other members of the guild go to the new area. They then encounter Balaharas. They encounter the Doshagamas at a village, and probably they'll go to other areas of the Forbidden Lands that are all of different locales, because we know that the Windward Plains is not the only location. It is of many locations, but it's just themed as a desert locale. So there's probably going to be an ice area, there's going to be a forest area, and etc. But I wonder personally, how is it going to go from, say, the desert area to the ice area to whatever else there is in the locale system? Because I feel that in terms of the flagship, we'll get to that a little bit later, but I feel there's more to it than just this is like the flagship, and we see it in the Windward Plains, and then we go to another locale to fight it. Like, this is almost like a tease of that flagship, and we see it, and then we have to chase after it, and then we encounter all these other creatures in these different locales. I feel like there's almost something else about it, but we need to then kind of talk about that then. So that's kind of my theory lore-wise, that the locale and the locales in the area of the Forbidden Lands were banned. The hunters that went to the New World were not allowed to go because this was almost like pre-prepared. Like, they almost kind of like prepared them to go to the New World. They almost did like a test run, like kind of going through the areas, seeing what was or wasn't allowed, and they told them what they could traverse and what they couldn't traverse. So yeah, that's my personal theory as to what's going on, is that the guild banned the area in Monster Hunter World. Then in Wilds, we're allowed to go, and we're going to be encountering the monster that's possibly responsible for these storms that are causing the land to not only cause monsters to go berserk, but even mess around with the geology of the world as well. Okay, now that we were talking about story predictions with that flagship, or the quote unquote flagship, let's now talk about the mysterious Railgun Wyvern, as the fandom has called it. And we got to talk about a theory that a lot of people are having with him on whether he is or isn't the flagship, or if he is, but there might be more. And the thing is, for me personally, I think that it might just be a one flagship situation. I do think that what they could be doing is this is the flagship of the game. This is going to be a running pattern where every weather effect is going to be basically a small storm, and there will be thunder going on during these storms. So, we have a sandstorm, so then a snowstorm, windstorm, rainstorm. That could probably have thunder happening. So, like thunder is seemingly the major cause of these storms. So that could make sense to the narrative of everyone thinking that the Railgun Wyvern is the true culprit. But at the same time, I could see them saying that, okay, we're making different storms. So it might not just be a kind of like an asset flip or an asset change. I hope I'm saying that term correctly, where instead of a sandstorm, they just make it white, and they then say, here's a snowstorm. And they just have like little snowflakes and snow particles during that storm while a thunder's going on, so that it's a different kind of environment. So they could do that, or it could just be like a snowstorm and a blizzard, a rainstorm and a cyclone, like something like that. They could just straight up have more drastically different weather going on, and the theory of there's actually going to be more than one flagship can make sense. If, say, you have a flagship that could actually control blizzards, that could be a cool idea. One that can create rainstorms, or one that can use hurricanes and cyclones. That could work. The problem, however, is that when we think of the multi-flagships, that was done in Generations and Generations Ultimate, as Generations had 4 flagships, and Generations Ultimate had 2. So, if that's the case, how many would you then really pick? Because I don't think you can do that many storms and make them all work, because, to be honest, there is a dragon in the series that is known for creating tornadoes, that being Kushala Daora. So if you're going to make a wind monster, how do you make one that can do wind attacks that isn't similar to Kushala Daora? So that's kind of the thing that I'm very curious about. And then rainstorm-wise, Amatsu can do that. Amatsu can also make hurricanes and can also do rain. So you kind of are stuck in, how do we do this idea but differently? So perhaps they could actually work to their surroundings and make a flagship or two that work in the idea of weather. They could do that. But I feel that in a scenario like Wilds, what would you essentially do with it in particular that would make sense with the whole weather mechanic? Because the weather mechanic is going to be important. We know that it's going to be a massive kind of thing dealing with the game. So if this is the case, if it's just going to be, okay, just one part of the weather changes, but the other stays the same. So again, instead of a sandstorm, it's a snowstorm, and thunder's still going on. That's kind of like, for me, the question that I have. Is it going to be a fully new environment and a fully new weather system, or is it going to be like a different environment, but just the same or similar style of weather? So if that's the case, then I don't even know if we're going to be having, the same flagship, they would probably have this thing pop up in every locale. So that's why we then go to every locale. We're chasing after this thing. We see it in the Windward Plains, so we're chasing it into the ice area. We're chasing it into the forest area. We're chasing it into the lava area. And then maybe finally all the way back to the Windward Plains or to a brand new area. That is what I'm thinking could be happening. But if we are going to be having completely different weather, maybe they could do that. Maybe the idea is that this is an apex of the Windward Plains, and we are going to then probably hunt this thing down, and then we're going to hunt down the apex of the ice area, the apex of the forest area, and etc. And then we then get to fight the true flagship, if this actually isn't it, or if this is just one of many. So, flagship-wise, I think this is a flagship. I don't think it's not. I do think it is. The question that everyone has on their mind, however, is it the flagship? Like, there's no other flagships. This is the only one we're getting. It's this flying Wyvern. Or if there's more than one, is there going to be 2? Is there going to be 3? Or are we going to do another 4? So that I genuinely do think is an interesting kind of question to ask in the terms of what could we potentially be seeing from the flagship itself. We know that it's going to be a monster that uses electricity. Probably it's going to use its tail to be like a lightning rod, and the bulbs, these sacks that are on the neck of it, it uses to harvest the electricity. So maybe it actually absorbs it, and that's how it charges its electrical capabilities. So that's what it could do. That's probably what is happening. Is its moveset is uses its tail, gets lightning, and it charges all the way to the spikes on the back, to then the bulges that come out of the neck, and then it absorbs the electricity, and then it puts the sacks back into its neck, and then it fires the electricity from that. Or, like a railgun, it goes from the very back all the way to the tip. So if the tail is going to harvest the electricity runs from the tail to the back, to the neck, to the plates that are on the head that it can move to point forward. As we can see, the plates actually do move on their own. So I can imagine that normally this creature will not really be attacking with its face. It'll just be attacking with its body. But then when it's going to attack with its head, it uses these plates maybe to run into you, almost like it's going to stab you with them, or it's going to essentially try to use that electricity to shoot at you like a railgun. So that's a lot of the questions that people have with the Railgun Wyvern entirely. So I'm curious to know what they'll do with it in terms of combat, but as a monster, I'm genuinely very interested to know what they could do with it for the narrative of the game. Whether it'll be he's related to Nada because of the incident, or he's framed for what happened. Not like they're actually framing the monster for what happened, but almost like a wrong place, wrong time scenario where this creature is blamed for what happened. Also, right as I said that, there is literally rain falling where I'm living, so probably an omen that this thing is actually going to be of a serious nature, let's say. So I hope this video was to your liking. I promise that I'm going to be making sure that I make better content in the future. I know that it's been a while, and at the moment I've just been doing reaction content for video game announcements that I'm excited for. But I do promise that I am going to be working on making newer content. I promise that there is going to be some change. I'm hopeful to get that Polyworld review I wanted to do a long while ago finished, and move on to some other things, as there's a lot of shows and movies that I really want to talk about. Movies like Ultraman Rising, shows like Arcane, and etc. that I really would like to talk about. But I think that at the moment, I kind of want to actually do some theorizing videos of Monster Hunter. I can't promise that I'll make a ton of them, but at the moment, while I'm working on those and just working on getting a better living space to do better reviews, I absolutely am going to be working on making the channel a lot more active for content and making you guys enjoy what comes out. So hope you all were enjoying this video. I hope to see you all for August for when the third trailer will drop for Wilds, and hopefully I actually will just be able to make a discussion and breakdown video the moment the trailer actually comes out. So thank you for watching. This is the Data Byte channel signing out. Have a good one.